Okay, I'm doing kind of a quick drive-by just around the corner. There's the Friary and the side we used to enter from. And then I'm going to do a quick drive-by into the parking lot so you can see St. Anthony's grade school. This meant so much to me as a kid. I loved my school and my teachers. You see there those bushes that used to be a little garden we planted when our dear friend Jan Cruz passed away. The Jan Cruz Memorial Garden. This was the door that the little kids came out. The bigger kids came out a side door on the other side. This was our playground. We didn't have kiddie playground stuff back then. Boys would have to be on one side, girls would have to be another. And at lunch, this was all boys. And the girls would go up to the other side of the convent. There you see the convent where the Sisters of St. Joseph lived. Sister James Patrick was the guardian of the house. She ruled with an iron fist the way she ruled our classroom with an iron fist. Here's the door to the Friary that we always would go in when you work at the Friary. And then I'm going to just take you down a little bit. Here we are. Everything's so close together here in my neighborhood where I grew up. Here's the wall. That used to be enclosure. We used to have novitiate here. And when you're novitiate, you have enclosure where you're locked in for like a year and you don't really leave. If you leave, you got to start over again. And no non-Franciscans are allowed in. And if you see the house I'm focusing on right now, let's see if I can get closer. That was the house I lived in as a little kid. It was a cool house. This was a cool area to live in. My dad's friend, Dale Isley, his mom lived upstairs from us, and Dale was traveling a lot at that time. I think he was in the military still and come home, but we lived on the bottom floor. So you see how close I was. That's about kindergarten through second grade, I think we lived in that house. But then I'm going to bring you around. We're going to look over here. Let's just drive around the block. Hopefully I don't freak these people out while I'm filming the old hood. This is the procession route for Corpus Christi, where I told you where we process with the Blessed Sacrament. People would put out altars and so it's not so tight. People would put out altars and flags, papal flags, American flags. We'd have an oompa band. Church bells would ring. The trumpets would blare. The church bells would ring. A cannon would be shot off at the girls' high school. It was pretty cool. I loved it. And then we would come around this way, and one of the stops would be up here, which was Jim Weber's house. May he rest in peace. Jim Weber was a longtime resident from a big family of the parish, and he had the best theatrical lighting in St. Louis. And when I started doing plays, he was very generous. His nephew Joe was my tech designer, and we had the best lighting, man. Joe's still a great tech director. It's hard to see probably, but over here are walls. This used to be, first it was Maryville Academy, and then it was Augustinian Academy. And when I was 3 years old, we sat at my grandma's house across the street and watched it burn down. And Augustinian Academy, I think, closed after that. Maryville Academy moved out into the suburbs. But here we get the back of the girls' high school, and where we used to play in the yard of kindergarten. The only thing was, this was about 10 feet higher. It was elevated with, you kind of see the wall? It was elevated with these kinds of walls. You get a little bit of a sense over it here. And this little street here, Providence, a lot of the Petries and other friends of ours lived in the area. And you get the back of the church here. This little break in the wall is now a great food pantry. Wonderful people run it, and really important for the neighborhood. A lot of my recovering friends come here. That's the Sheridan Apartments. That was seniors when I was a kid. Now I think it's low-income housing. It's called Chapel View now. My friends Sherry and Greg live there and raise their kids there. But and then you can kind of see the grade school over there. and the yard for the Friars, which again, this was all enclosure back in the day. My friend John Ops, I think he's still back here in St. Louis. When he was a transitional deacon, he was a runner and he loved to tan. Also, Brother Bill Schulte, he rests in peace. He used to tan back there and scandalize the senior citizens, I think, in their short shorts and shirtless, laying out. Friars got to have a tan too, y'all. And you see the cupola? It's new now, but the little pointed cupola on the transept there, that's what got struck by lightning and caused the fire back in the early 90s. And then over here again, this is the space we would have the tent for the school picnic. This would be the street we would have kiddie rides, so you get a little bit of sense of my neighborhood. I cannot tell you how tight my neighborhood is. We grew up hanging out outside, so we knew every alley, every yard, every gangway. But we also knew almost everyone who lived on every street. Man, it's awesome to hear kids at this school again. I loved St. Anthony's School, and I was heartbroken when it closed down. Then we'd have one of our last stops of Corpus Christi up on these big, beautiful steps for this, which was the high school building back then. You can see it right here. And then we would say our prayers one more time and then return to church. Right there. Then after church, we'd go over to the lower auditorium and we would have ice cream and they'd have beer for the adults, like a good German church, after we'd all walked around hot out in the sun all morning. So there's a nice little tour of the neighborhood.